To order this meeting of the Sebastian City Planning and Zoning Commission, Thursday, March 21st. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Roth.
Here.
Mr. Simmons.
Present.
Ms. Kottenberg.
Here.
Mr. Carter.
Present.
Mr. Motti.
Present.
Mr. Kizzelbosch.
Here.
Mr. Eugen.
Here.
Mr. Alvarez.
Here.
And Mr. Reyes is excused.
Thank you. I'd like to announce that Mr. Reyes is excused this evening, so Mr. Simmons will be voting in his place. And I would like to make an agenda modification, unless anybody disagrees. I would like to move as our first item of attention, under new business, the accessory structure review to the first order of business after approval of the minutes, if anybody doesn't object. No objections? Thank you. You've all had an opportunity to review the minutes of our last meeting. I ask you now if there are any additions or corrections. Seeing none, we would entertain a motion to accept them as written.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of March 7th, 2019 as written.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is passed. Thank you. And now we will move to the accessory structure review. If we could have a presentation from the property owner, Carol Scranton.
Excuse me, are we going to swear anyone who is going to testify? Are we going to swear them in?
Oh, do we?
No, that'll be it for the quasi-judicial public hearing.
Okay.
Okay. Please state your name into the microphone. Thank you.
I'm sorry, what did... Spell it, please.
F-U-R-N-A-R-I.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we have your plans in front of us. Tell us what you're doing.
Building, I'm going to do the speaking because we're married and it's not, she don't know a lot about it.
Oh, don't let him get away with that. No.
She can know all she wants. I'd like to build a garage on the side, my side lot that I have, 720 square feet garage, steel structure, Cardinal carport building, all metal.
Okay.
I don't know what, we have some, would you like me to read the question marks we have on?
If you have addressed those questions, yes.
Sure. And I'll let them fill in the blanks as I kind of fill you in. This was based on the size, the 720 square feet. The code requires this to be reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission. We have set up a staff report that kind of shows you all of the items from the code that needs to be met, that brought into compliance. As you can see, they do meet all of regarding the setbacks. Because it didn't meet it was over 400 square feet in size and over 12 feet. It does have to meet the regular setback of 20 feet. I do want to note, because of that and the placement that they are putting it right at the 20-foot setback. And so when we did bring this over to the building department to continue on with the structural review, they have noted to us that they are going to require a survey, a more complete survey. We had let the applicants know. They'll need a survey to get the permit submit a proposed survey, and then a form board survey before they actually pour the slab. They'll put up the form boards, shoot another survey, and we can verify to make sure that it's not creeping into that setback. So we will require a survey for that. The couple of questions that we had that we didn't get from our packet, and we wanted to get this before you guys tonight. The house is 14 feet. We measured that off of the house plans that came in. I could not tell from the plans that were submitted how tall the accessory structure was going to be.
13 feet.
Okay.
I noticed on your things here, it says my house is 14 feet, 13.6 to the ground.
Okay, to the ground there. We had scaled it off that. So that does meet that requirement of not being higher than the house. We weren't sure because we didn't have a proposed survey, the existing accessory structures. And the applicant had mentioned that they do have 2 sheds.
We have 2 sheds, we have, which is two 10 by 12 sheds, and which is 240 square feet, but one of them is coming down after I build this garage because it's very old.
And based on the 720 square feet, they still have 280 square feet remaining. 1,000 square feet is their max. So we would maybe want to make that a condition of approval, that before CO on the building, the other shed is taken off the property. The thing that, the items that are more on your review, and actually what you're reviewing this for, is on our 3rd page, with regards to, it does meet the required minimum pitch. 720 square feet has to be compatible with the overall general architectural design of the primary residence, including facades and materials, colors, trim, roofing materials, and pitch. And so I think they're doing a pretty good job, even though it is metal. They do have siding on their house. If that was consideration, I know we've considered that before on some of our larger structures. The green trim, and they have noted that they're going to add the embellishment, the star embellishment, onto the accessory structure. I think staff's only concern is the roof. They are going to, as you can see with the information they submitted, it is going to be a green roof, metal roof. They have a black, I know I have brown in the staff report, it's black shingle roof. And so that was a consideration that the commission should discuss and see how you felt about that.
Our roof on our house is almost 20 years old, and then some, and you know how roofs around here last. And the reason is we don't want another black roof on the house, so within the 5 years, we're gonna do another metal roof on the house to match with the green trim on the house. That's the only reason we wanted to go with the green roof. If it's a major issue that way, I can always change the roof to black. But the house roof is an old shingle roof that's really flat and dingy black, and then this is going to be a brand new shiny black roof. My personal feeling is I don't think it'll look right, but that's just me.
Okay, do we have any questions from any of the commissioners?
No.
Start with Mr. Simmons.
Okay, I understand that the trees that are existing are going to stay pretty much the same?
Yeah,
Because you're going to have
all the
banana
trees.
trees?
We're just going to trim a couple up because they're going to infringe on the roof line itself. But they're just trimming up. We ain't moving any trees.
Okay.
And we got 30 trees on our property.
I knew it was quite a few.
Yeah. I know.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Alvarez?
No, I'm fine.
I have a couple of questions. As far as the staff's concerned, the comments on here about metal corrugated siding, you made a comment that you felt that they're doing a pretty good job with that. By the look of it, is that your feeling that it looks okay, even though it's a corrugated type look?
There have been smaller ones, I mean, still over 500 square feet, but I think visually, the only difference is the metal on theirs goes vertical on the shed.
On the garage, it'll be horizontal.
The garage is going to be horizontal, the house is, it still have that panel look, but it is going to be metal. I'm not sure, we are getting closer to that 750 threshold where it has to match the house exactly.
But we are doing the color.
Yeah, but they're adding the star. I think visually wise, that you'll be able to tell that this garage is with this house. But that, again, that is up to planning and zoning's determination if you're comfortable with that. It will be painted to match the same color, so it's not going to be a different color or anything, but it is a metal building, and they're not going to be putting any other sides on it, siding on it.
Is the color is noted as being tan?
That's
Is that correct? And the
They
house
only
is
offer
yellow.
so many colors, and
Yeah.
the manufacturer only offers so many colors, and that was the closest color to our house.
I understand. I looked at the color chart and I looked at your house and I thought, it's quite a difference. And one of the things that we always consider is how the new structure fits in with the neighborhood and the existing house.
Yes.
That's why I had those two questions. There's a concrete 12 by 12 pad in the back with a 4-foot wide walkway back to that pad.
No, there's a pool back there now, and we bought the house about 4 or 5 years ago, and the pool was there already. There's a pool there. That concrete pad is
Okay,
not
so
there.
there's a pool, not a storage shed. That's what I was
Yes,
getting at.
there is a pool,
Okay.
no storage shed. Well, there's 2 storage sheds back there, but they're back further.
Right.
Yeah, and like I said, one of them will be gone.
What's the size of the one that you're planning to take down?
They're both 10 by 12.
10 by 12, okay.
Yes.
Maybe we should make note of that somehow, put it in the,
You can make that a part of your condition of approval.
yeah.
Won't take long to take down.
It's about there.
Those are my questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have one question. There's a rather large recreational vehicle.
I have a van with a ladder rack, and that's why the door is tall on it. And I can't fit in a standard garage.
No, I was talking about the recreational vehicle that
Like a,
Oh, my
parked on the lot.
camper, yes.
Yeah.
yes.
Is that's sitting quite near the front of the lot, and
That'll have to be
where
moved.
did,
Yeah, we can move that.
yeah,
Yeah.
because our ordinance says that recreational vehicles or anything like that needs to be parked.
Behind the house
Yeah.
line, yes, yeah.
It's you have
that's
a
not
beautiful
problem.
lot, beautiful trees.
A lot of work.
Yeah, it's very pretty, but I think we do need to make that conform.
No problem.
Mr. Motti? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Hugan.
I have several questions regarding this building. On the photo you presented, it says not actual building of size. Is this thing going to have any windows in it?
No windows.
Just the one garage door and one person?
One in the front, one in the back, and then the man door on the side.
All right, and the size of the garage door is going to be what?
36 by 80.
No, the
Oh,
width, the garage door.
one is going to be 12 by 9, and the other one's going to be 10 by 8.
Okay. Those are the only questions I have. Size of the doors.
We'll move back to Mr. Hugan.
I just have a couple questions. Back to the color of I understand your house is a very light color. Does this garage, this metal garage, I see they list a beige color, but they don't have that down here? The beige color, beige would match your house more than the tan would.
The color chart was there. I'm sorry, I don't have it. The color chart was there. There's a beige there?
Yeah.
There is.
Well, yeah.
There's also a sandstone. You want to take?
No,
Okay.
I'm colorblind, so I'm sorry.
I was just wondering.
When we looked at it on the internet, the tan was the closest.
Okay. It looks.
But again, like I said, that was printed off our printer, and
If you'd like, I can look at it and see the color difference.
I think, what I'm trying to get is even if you print it off there and you look at it on the internet, it's always different until it shows up. And you know what I mean? Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking there's two colors that might be closer than the tan.
If you believe off of that chart that one would change, I have no problem changing the color
Okay.
if you think it'll match better.
And the other question I have is what, did the manufacturer tell you what the wind load would be on this?
It is hurricane approved. It's Indian River County. I think it's 150 mile an hour winds.
May have to be 160, but that'll be definitely verified during the structural review.
Okay. That's all I have. Thanks.
I know they have built a lot of buildings in this county before for here, so So they must meet the hurricane standards. And I want that.
Thank you.
Yes, you're saying the one shed gonna stay there. So that's with 10 by 12, 120 square feet?
One will stay, yes.
Okay, so my question, there is a total storage area be more than 750 square feet.
They can have up to 1,000 square feet max. They have over an acre property.
Okay.
So they can, the 5% is more than 1,000 max, 1,000 max.
Okay.
That's why I said they had 280 square feet remaining that they could
So
still have a
since
shed.
they don't have a full survey, so there's any utility easement problem, anything?
Yeah, so when we get that new survey, if any of the sheds are, even the shed that's going to stay, if it doesn't meet setback, we may need to
I
relocate
think
that.
it's going to meet, I think it'll meet setback,
Yeah, I
because the
think
one
it's a
corner is over
permit.
20 feet off of the property line.
And also you have unity of title?
Yes.
Okay. Lori, on the page 2 of your report, that total square feet of property, 44,000 square feet, something like that?
Yes.
It doesn't look that big.
Yes. I think Mr. Roth had questioned, I didn't give you an aerial, so I did send that in a second email. But you can see that it is 2 lots, and both lots were oversized, even though one was kind of a triangle sized. But based on the property appraiser's website, it was 1.01 acres.
All right. One more question. What you gonna do for the driveway? You gonna put a culvert or some kind of driveway
There
there?
is a culvert there already. I applied for a permit 2 years ago approximately, and I put one in about 2 years ago.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No questions.
Okay.
I have a follow-up. Would you object if the commission put it in the motion for the sandstone? I think that was a good option choice. I was still concerned about the color. And hearing your comment about being colorblind, not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with it.
Not a problem. No, I do not.
And the other thing too is when you look at it on a TV monitor for internet, whatever, there can be variances. And
Exactly.
this probably is a little bit closer, but I think the suggestion we had that sandstone might be the better. Beige is a little bit lighter, and I know as your house might weather a little bit more, it would come closer to the sandstone.
Right.
Because it's a nice yellow color with a green trim.
Yes.
Okay, I was just curious if that would be acceptable.
And if you would, I wrote it down, sandstone, and I can call the distributor tomorrow and change the colors. I already talked to him today about possibly having to change color, and he said no problem.
Okay.
Yes.
No other questions? Yes, sir?
I was just wondering, could the manufacturer send you samples of the color, the actual color it's going to be?
That I do not know. I would assume he could, but
I think maybe if he had gotten some samples that he could submit to the building department when he gets his permits, so that Dory can see it and say, yeah, this is the closest to the house, and we're happy with that?
I don't want to hone in on just on this color of the walls. It's kind of a general color. We're not going to be able to get it matched. If it was over 750 square feet, we can be a little bit more determined. So I don't want to get stuck on the color of the walls. I think if it's in a general color, and it seems like you're okay with the vertical and the horizontal. I kind of need to have addressed what's in the staff report, though, about the roof color. That is another issue that should be addressed. We've got 2 different roof types and 2 different roof colors. And then we have in the past said visually if it's going to blend in with the neighborhood. So if you're okay with that, I don't want to get too knocked down with just the colors on having it match exactly.
Well, if anybody, I guess I'll express my opinion then. I don't have a problem with the color of the roof. I know that, I know what a 20-year roof is like, and you will be changing it.
yes.
If not this month, next month.
The other day, we had a little bit of rain, where Cheryl said, I hear something dripping.
Yeah.
So it will be addressed.
But it was just all the moss from the trees
Yeah,
that had
the moss
stuck
was
between
filled
so
up,
many
and it was
trees.
backing up under
They cleared it off and the drip stopped.
And I know it's very difficult to fit together new construction with something that was built in 1977, but I took a drive through the neighborhood, and I don't think this is going to be a problem in the neighborhood. I think there's enough diversity in that neighborhood and enough trees on your lot that.
Kind of hide things a little bit too, but yeah.
What color are we planning on the roof?
I was gonna, our house, the trim on the house is green. The trim on the garage was green, so I wanted to do the roof to be green, and then when we did the roof on the house, I would do green.
Okay, I'm good with that.
And I like green better than black anyway, so.
He can see green better than other colors.
I think we're good with requiring, if you did want to change the color to sandstone, but I don't think we need to go as far as to actually get a sample. I think we're okay with that.
Yeah.
Great.
That'd just be another big delay, so, yeah.
Okay.
If there are no other questions, then I would entertain a motion. Anybody wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the 720 square foot detached garage at 557 Sloan Street, lots 2 and 3, block 64, Sebastian Highlands, replat number 2, as submitted with the requirements that Dory had mentioned for a survey. And there was one other thing you mentioned.
Removal?
A survey for, prior to setting the,
A form board, the building department will require that as a condition of their permit.
okay, removal of one of the sheds on the back of the lot, and recommending the sandstone color on the siding.
Do we have a second for that?
I would second that.
Okay. Let's take a vote on that. Voice vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Go forth and build.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a good resource, so check with her to make sure that the process goes
Yeah,
through.
so I've noticed that, yeah.
Thanks for letting him speak for me. I don't know all those stats.
I'm colorblind as well, so I know. I agree. Thank you.
The building department will get you when you're finished.
Now, the next item on our agenda is a quasi-judicial public hearing. If there is anyone here who will be speaking either for or against.
I may be speaking, possibly.
Okay.
I own the property directly adjacent to the property.
Okay, then you all need to be sworn in.
Yes.
Do you swear or affirm that the factual statements and factual representation which you are about to give or present during this public hearing will be truthful and accurate?
Yes.
Thank you.
Have any of the commissioners had any ex parte communications with the owner of the property or the builders? No.
No.
Okay. The applicant or the applicant's agent can now please make your presentation.
Good evening. My name is Wesley Mills with Mills Short & Associates. I'm representing the applicant for the project. The proposed project is essentially to demolish the existing building that's on site, reconstruct a slightly smaller building footprint, and construct a new building with architectural enhancements to be more compatible with the neighborhood. Our tenant would be Verizon Wireless, which is a top tier national tenant, retail tenant. And so we will also propose site improvements for the project to help bring it more into compliance, not only with city requirements, but also FDOT standards for vehicular traffic. So our proposed project is obviously demolishing the building and building a new one, installing a significant amount of landscape enhancements for the site, removing any exotics or invasive vegetation that's located on site, and improving the drive circulation and asphalt parking area to bring it into more compliance with the standards of today. So I'm here really to answer any questions you may have, and we can talk in more detail about the project, about specifics, as you guys would like.
Okay, we'll ask for a staff presentation, and then we probably will ask you some questions.
Okay, and that's what threw me off a little bit, that I was speaking before the staff. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, this is, as Mr. Mills has stated, this is a redevelopment of an existing site. It's the old State Farm Insurance Building. That building will be demolished, and there'll be a newer building erected. You've got the building elevations in your packet. The site itself is a little over an acre, and with the new development, it's going to be close to 68% open space. So 2/3 of the property will still be open space and treed, which is going to be the eastern part of that site. And I'm going through my staff report. The staff report, again, is set up so that it pulled out all of the required items from the code in our site plan article, and this shows what they are in compliance for, and everything's been provided so that it gives you a good feel if you can approve this or not. There is not expected any large delivery trucks. It'll just be your usual FedEx and UPS trucks, so we didn't, and based on the size of the building, a loading zone, a formal loading zone and space was not required. We have requested a small fence. If you had looked out at the survey, there is a big slope to the rear of the building. At first, we thought the proposal came in to leave that nice, dense landscaping in the back there, but after a site visit, we realized it is mostly pepper trees and invasive trees. So they were required, even though this is redevelopment, to bring the site into compliance with landscaping. So all the pepper trees and melaleucas are going to come out. I think then the slope is going to be a little bit more visible. We required, similar to the site across the street, the Dollar Tree, who also has that very steep slope on the back, they did a really nice split rail fence. And so the Verizon site is also going to add a little decorative fence that matches their architectural building, kind of to prevent people from, kids, whatever, going down that slope once it is landscaped and sodded. St. John's also reviewed the proposal. It's a redevelopment, so they received an exemption. They did not need to put in any additional stormwater as required because it's a redevelopment project. But they did ask that there would be some small dry retention area, very kind of some swales that they have added to the front of the site. That's the way that drainage is going to the US 1 drainage system. And so there is a few small swales in the front of the building along US 1. That is an off-site improvement that they are going to do. They are going to add a sidewalk along the US 1 in the US 1 right-of-way, even though to the north it won't be connecting to anything right now. Eventually, there's a proposed project for the Strunk Funeral Home that they'll be putting in a sidewalk. So we'll get some more connection of the sidewalk along US 1 on that side. Regarding the landscaping in the back, the trees that they are saving, there are some palms, pines, and oaks. They've 23 tree credits, and the landscaping plan does give them credit for that. And as you can see, the landscape sheet does bring that site into compliance with current riverfront landscaping. The perimeter landscaping, the foundation, because development was only on a third of the site, they were able to put those trees in, and we'll work with them on the materials underneath along Davis and US 1, there's some power poles with some lines. The east property line does abut 2 residences, and so required by code, they needed an opaque buffer. So they are putting a wooden fence. It's a 293-foot linear line, so they'll be putting fence there. They're also putting in a small 1-foot berm, a little off that fence, that'll also kind of as a prevented from some of the water runoff if there was a heavy, heavy type of rain. We asked and requested and got a good, thorough environmental Phase 1 and Phase 2 report on the site. Regarding the history of that site, it used to be a Stuckey's gas station. And we found the old site plan that showed where the gas tanks, when it turned over to a restaurant, that were filled. So we wanted to make sure that those were done properly, there wasn't any residue in the ground. We did get that Phase 2 site assessment, and it met all of the soil testing, met all of the national standards of what for those testing that did not require any additional cleanup or any additional soil testing. The site was good on that. No tortoises, no wetlands. There is in the northeast corner a power pole with a osprey nest on it. And we did get information from the environmental. There was, based on a Migratory Bird Treaty Act, there isn't any formal requirement of how far they had to be away from that osprey nest while they were clearing. But we did want to, as you can see, it's not necessarily a condition, but we are going to require the contractor that comes in for the land clearing to give us some sort of plan that shows how he's going to address that, either stay away from that a certain amount of feet, maybe instead of machine clearing, go in with hand clearing. They gave some guidance to make sure none of the trees that are being removed fall towards the pole. So we'll get that when that commercial land clearing permit comes in, to get at least an additional plan on how they will protect the osprey nest while they are clearing that area. And they may come back and say that they, at least until June, is the nesting season will be done in June. So if they decided to change up that they are just going to clear the western part of that property, wait till nesting season is done, then clear the rest, we certainly can work with them on that also. But we have addressed that, and it has been noted that there is a osprey there. Also part of the landscaping plan, as you'll note, because of the slope, and they are clearing out all those pepper trees, they are going to put on it's an erosion control matting that will go down after they clear that and get everything graded, and then the sod will go on top of that. And based on their notes, they are proposing that there'll be an inspection after 30 days to make sure that that matting and that soil and the sod has taken, that it hasn't eroded away. If there has any rainstorms, we'll make sure that it's good that way. Also, because of the sloping and the residents on the bottom of the slope, we had requested that they add a note to their lighting plan that if the lights that are back there on the east side of the parking lot require some additional shielding, that may be necessary, and also that light on the back of the building possibly be put on a timer so that it does go off at night, so it's not shining in any of the residents to the east there. With that, staff feels that it meets all the land development code requirements, the intentions of the comprehensive plan, and the Riverfront Overlay District, and we recommend approval of the site plan.
Thank you. At this time, the commissioners may ask questions. And
I have some questions.
We'll start on this end.
I really have no questions. I want to thank the owner that's investing in our community. We appreciate that. The only thing I have a question about is on the elevations of the front in particular, with keeping with our desire for the fishing village theme, so we might be able to incorporate some nautical aspects, like it was done at Tower Kingdom with the roping, like the piers, things of that nature.
Some hardscaping?
Yes. So that would be only my recommendation, that be added. Thank you.
It's a nice project, and let's see. And it's also nice you're reducing the impervious area. That's a good thing. My question is that little retention area is not big enough. If St. John is accepting, it's okay. So have you got the letter from them, acceptance letter approving the thing?
Yes, so in regards to the drainage system, not only did we get a certification from St. John's, which we did get and we included as part of our site plan package, we also had to get a FDOT drainage permit, which we've attained, and then the stormwater retention system has been designed based on city standards and was sent to the consulting engineer for roof.
It's good to go get that letter, and my only, as an engineer, as a concern, because it's not going to hold that much water, but since it's an old property, and you reduce the impervious area, it's fine with me. But my second question is my information, is there any property, when you develop on east of the railroad track, it has to retain 1.5 inches, not 1 inch.
Correct. If this was a new site, though, but this is a redevelopment site,
Okay, so
so
you get
St.
bar
John's
for
had
everything
stated,
there,
and you
okay.
are correct that the code does require additional.
It is, because-
But there wasn't any, and that was our concern too, since we were using now the full acre to put on stormwater, but based on the exemption from St. John's.
But they mentioned here they're meeting your requirement for 1 inch on sheet 3,
Oh, on the,
grading plan.
okay.
Our drainage system does hold 1 inch.
Yeah, but city require 1.5 inches.
East of the railroad tracks.
East of the railroad track.
Well, the drainage system actually has more than 1 inch. Anyways, I can't tell you specifically right now that
It's
it
fine, I'm
meets.
just pointing out, I mean, my main concern is St. John is accepting, DOT is accepting, that's fine. But to making a correction, it's 1.5 inches, it's not a 1 inch.
So without doing the calculations, if,
Yeah,
we can request that the revised drainage calculation shows
Yeah.
that what is designed, and it may
If it be
do the
50%
1.5
more,
inches.
so, yeah.
Does that include soil storage?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to retain 1.5 inches rainfall on your property.
And you
before
can
it's going-
assume the soil storage
Yeah.
as volume, so we'll have, the plan has more than enough.
Okay.
We just need a revised drainage calculation sheet that shows that.
Second question is, according to, for the drainage flow, since there is no cross-section, there's not a single cross-section in a parking lot shown on this plan. I'm looking the south driveway. When the runoff come to the middle of the driveway, it's gonna go south along this highway.
So there's a
It's
break.
not gonna stay there, it's gonna go to the highways.
Yeah, and so there are no cross sections because we're milling the existing driveway, so we're not changing the grades. But there is a high point along US 1, right kind of at the break point of the driveway you're talking about. So part of the flow is directed towards the flume on the north side of US 1, and then the other portion is directed
It's
to the
doing
drainage.
right now, it's the same, it's existing, it's same thing, but I'm just pointing out there, if everybody DOT is accepting that thing, I'm fine. So-
Okay.
Yeah, but-
The two questions I have, and I didn't hear what you said, Dory, on the existing tanks that were abandoned and are going to stay in place. Are those tanks metal tanks or concrete tanks?
So all we have to go by are the records that actually Dory was helpful in helping us find and our conversations with DOH. So I believe that they are concrete tanks. They have been filled, and we did have the phase 2 that tested all the soils around it and deemed it, there were no further action that was needed. We did that before we even purchased the
All right, so
property.
it was certified that they are concrete tanks? Or you don't know that?
Off the top of my head, I do not, but I'm 100%, but I'm very confident that they are concrete.
Were the tanks used for fuel oil or any type of fuel, or were they for water?
They were fuel tanks. Fuel tanks?
They were fuel tanks?
fuel tanks, yes, it was a Stuckey's gas station.
I do have the old site plan. It was all that we could find. It's from 1980 something, 83. It just says gas tanks to be filled with sand and slurry, and that's the only record that we have of it. It does not note if it's concrete or if they were, metal tanks. But we rely on that, on the phase 2 and the testing, and it didn't come back with anything that needed to be additionally done, and no further testing. Like I say, there wasn't any concern with any spill or anything, and I tested not only soil, but the water, the potable water from the well. There was a couple other things that were tested, and all met the standards of negligible, that didn't need additional
The
testing.
tanks were filled with a solid substance?
Yes, we wouldn't even closed on the site if there was the slightest hint of any possibility of there being an environmental issue on the site.
No, the reason I asked is because you got a metal tank. If it's a metal tank, they do deteriorate, and you do have this opportunity to have a collapse. That's why I asked that, and what they were filled with. If they were
Sand.
filled with sand, and they compact from time, that metal tank could possibly collapse. Not completely, but you'll get some type of depression. That was the one question I had. The other question I had, on your plan, you show a future sign, but it doesn't show on all the prints. Are you providing electric for that, or do you have any dimensions of what that sign might be?
So, yeah, so the sign is just planned on being a standard monument sign in compliance with the sign requirements for the city. There will be a separate permit for the building, for the building of the sign that will be issued. We do intend to have electric in the sign to light it up, assuming, obviously that it meets all the sign requirements of the city. It's not typical for site planning purposes. We show the location, make sure we have the setbacks, and that we're not obstructing any site angles. But the details of the sign have just not been flushed through, but I promise you, there's still another approval process for the sign, and it would be fully in compliance.
The only other concern I had was the amount of runoff coming off the back of that lot onto the adjoining lot, and if that was going to be, if that fencing and that berm is going to be adequate in your calculations. When we get these heavy rains and you get that overflow, it does damage could do damage to the adjoining lot. That would be a concern I have, and how are you going to address that if it does occur?
Yeah, so, we did design the berm. Right now there's currently not a berm. There's a significant amount of vegetation, although it's exotics. I think ideally we'd love not to touch the berm and not pull out any exotics and leave it as is. That's not really an alternative. As part of the land development code, we have to rip out the exotics. So we're going to construct a berm, we're going to stabilize the slope, we're going to monitor it like Dory had mentioned. So if there's an issue during construction, it will be addressed. It has to be.
It's pretty steep. It's a 12-feet drop back.
Yes. It is slightly less than a 4-to-1, which 4-to-1 is typically, but no, I don't disagree with you.
12-feet drop and the 1 foot to swale is not going to take care of the whole thing.
Well, I guess the only other option we would have is to create a larger berm, but then we'd be steepening the slope. So it's kind of like a catch.
No, you can make a swale inside the property, then make a berm bigger.
Well, so the structure will have roof drains, and the site above that high point will all drain to the front of the site. We actually are guttering and putting piping underneath the ground and tying that into the dry retention swales that will ultimately bubble up in US 1.
It's just concern is so that.
Yes, I have two questions, one for staff and one for the engineer. The one for the staff, you said there's an osprey nest out there. Are they affected by light like the turtles are? I don't know anything about the birds, but.
Nothing that we can find. I mean, we did some research. I know the environmental did. There are no specific requirements from Fish and Wildlife.
Okay.
And even during nesting season, unlike an eagle or something where there was a specific radius around that you had to during nesting season. We've done our research and no specific requirements.
Okay.
No, and I'd also like to point out that the pole is man-made for the osprey nest, and it's not on our site. So I just wanted to make that clear too.
Okay.
The nest isn't on our site, it just is within the right-of-way in proximity to our site. So we're just aware of it. We did our homework on what needs to be done. There really are no requirements. However, like Doria mentioned, we're going to take precautions.
Yeah, I was just curious about, because if you have turtle nests, you have to have lights that can't light at a certain time of the year, and I didn't know anything about the osprey nests or anything like that. So, okay, that was that question. And then for the engineer, I was out on the site, and I think this question's been answered. When you come out of the north driveway, and obviously you can only go north, there's a bunch of sea grapes there that are blocking the view. I think those are going to be removed, right, from what I saw the plan?
Yes, sir.
And then there's going to be a sidewalk, so there shouldn't be any sight problem when you come out of that north driveway.
No, correct.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
Thank you. I appreciate all the thought that's gone into the plan, and I particularly appreciate the efforts for the landscaping. You got some really beautiful choices there, and
Thank you.
I think it's going to be an enhancement to the area. And I think you just need to be really careful about making sure that it doesn't slide down the hill.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
But I know, and I also know that the water retention, underground water retention works beautifully. We have that in our parking lot at our office, and it is, I fill the parking lot with water, and 10 minutes later, it's taken care of. It works great. So I don't have any other questions. I think the plans were very thorough, and Dory's notes were very thorough as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rob.
And just to further on that back property line, there's a whole line of trees sitting there, trees, bushes, shrubs in front of that berm, which will also help to absorb some of that runoff and slow it down to some effect. I have some experience in lighting, and I know that you can put a blinder on some of the light to stop it from penetrating too far out. And my recommendation would be if you can do it on the one in the back of the building and the two on the parking lot edge, because they're pretty bright. Some type of blinder, that just a flat sheet that might drop down 6 to 8 inches so it doesn't, go way off. Because they've done really well with directional lighting lately, I know. So that might be something as a point. There's nothing mentioned on that on the specs.
Agree. So in the architectural plans, I thought, Dory, we do intend on, we have light fixtures that have shields on them, especially on the back side of the building.
So it's a downlighting effect?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we had that note added too, because we're really not going to know if it is a nuisance or not until they're actually on the site at different times of the year, whatever, but when the lights are installed and turned on at night. And if we were to get some complaints from the neighbors or some calls because of that note, then we could go to the property owner and say, could you look into some additional shielding or timers and/or. So that's why we had that note added, because we're really not going to know possibly until the site is lit at night to find out.
I have a question on your plan A301, the lighting plan. I was looking at it, and some of the lighting designations are opaqued out, or looks to me like, I know how these plans are put together, that something is covering up the designations. There's arrows pointing to windows, looks like concrete. The lights next to the main entrance and some other fixtures there. And I couldn't cross-reference those to the type of lights in the, in the list of lighting.
Yes, so I do see what you're...
It's right above the word front elevation.
I do see that. And so if on A102, the cut sheet to your far left is the light fixture that we're proposing on the fronts of the building with the shields. So I do see what you're saying, and it is cut off, but it's a note referencing to A102, which is the data sheet for the light fixture. And
is that just specifying a type of glass that's in there? That's some of the arrows are pointing to the window.
It's pointing to the light fixtures, and just calling out what the light fixture is, plus it also says storefront system, gray tinted glazing. So it's just specifying the glass tint on the windows, as well as just indicating that it is a light.
So it is a translucent window then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It would be the typical shading color green, not a fluorescent, not that Verizon would do that, but it'll be a complementary shading gray type of...
Yes, sir, yeah.
Okay.
size are these light poles? How tall are they?
I'm assuming you're talking about the parking lot poles. They're just a standard area lighting. They're actually an LED flat light so that it shields only down on, yes.
No, it's on A101. The light pole detail shows them at 20 feet. This one?
Okay.
Okay, how many people are you planning on hiring here in this place? You know, staff?
I don't. I mean, it's going to be a typical retail Verizon store. Bobby, maybe. Bobby's the owner, so.
The owner developer. So I built a lot of stores for Verizon Wireless. This is probably in the range of around 30 I built. The good news about this particular company is called Cellular Sales of Knoxville, Inc. They're probably almost 1,000 stores. They run a first-class operation. Some of their stores actually outperform corporate Verizon stores. People that it's not a minimum wage paying job. All the salesmen there are what we call sales executives. I'm not have any ownership in cellular sales. I just build the buildings for them. But we've had just top-notch reviews with all the different cities that I've built for. And these are sales executive level jobs, so they're not minimum wage. I know current dress codes, everybody wears ties in the stores, and it's a pretty professional outfit.
So you're going to have your manager, assistant manager?
Yes. They rotate staff,
Okay.
so they'll have definitely some hires from Sebastian area, but they'll have a store in Vero Beach and some in Palm Bay. So they rotate the staff around and give everybody, that's how they normally do their stores. But my group that I do work for, the guy that manages this whole territory, I think they've got like 50 or 60 stores now, and they do really well.
Good. Thank you for choosing Sebastian.
Thank you for your input.
How many employees are typically at one of these units?
I think the rotating staff that they have, like I said, they rotate every couple of days. They go to a different store. They find that's best practice than having one sales executive in one store, 7 days a week or so. But I believe the staffing team is like 4 to 5 salesmen at all times. And depending on the volume, it could be more. And then different days of the week, it could be more. So they do rotate their staff based on that. But I think the team is somewhere around 6 to 12 people, depending on the volumes, that they rotate around in a market. I wish I should brush up a little bit more on the details of that. I apologize in advance, but I've never had any complaints from any of the shopping center owners or declarations that we have in place.
Yeah, we're just curious to know how many people are going to work there, because...
Yeah. Again, these jobs they're commission-based salary jobs, and I know that they're, $30,000, $40,000 plus jobs, as I've been told.
Thank you.
I have a couple of other questions.
Continue.
On the roof line, I noticed it's like a 4-foot 4-inch drop from where the outer parapet is that goes all the way around the roof. And the air conditioning unit's mentioned as being like 4 feet high. My only question, I couldn't verify it by looking at the drawings, I'm sure it is, but that goes a complete circle around that, not circle, but around the perimeter of the building. So it will totally hide the air conditioning unit, correct?
Yes. In this store in particular, we really, Verizon kind of went out the box to create something that fit with the neighborhood. And we didn't want to just do, well, one is, we didn't feel like the city would even accept just a storefront. So the building will be aesthetically pleasing around all sides, even the rear. So we've added some embellishments on the back side of the site as well, which is not really typical.
I came up a couple of years ago across the street, so we're glad that
I was going to say, why don't you buy the one across the street, too?
Yeah. On the parking lot itself, would be the east bumper line of the parking lot. There's a little bit of a drop-off there, and I can't tell by the drawing how high the curb is, because we had another concern. Now, our staff did mention there was a split rail fence that would go along there. Is that correct? All the way along that east perimeter of the parking lot, suitably set back from the curb, of course.
Yes, yes. So the curb will be raised 6 inches like a typical, parking curb. And then we do have the decorative, railing / fence to just keep people from wandering, beyond that point to where the slope goes down.
I don't know that a rope fence would be as, well, split rail isn't that protective anyway, but we're concerned about the image that's presented. We're looking at, and we talked about this for years, trying to keep things looking like a more of a fishing village concept, as Mr. Carter mentioned, and I'm not so sure that maybe that split rail might be converted into, a post and rope type fence with a double rope going through to accent that. I'm just kind of throwing it out as an idea because I felt that something needed to be along there. We don't want anything, really strong and not looking conducive to the building, but it is a concern if people pull up and there's a lot of seniors, me included, and sometimes you get talking to somebody and you forget and you put it in D instead of R, and so something needs to be there to kind of somewhat arrest the vehicle.
No, I definitely understand
down the hill and...
No, we do. We understand your concern, and actually, for a fence, a lot of consideration and concepts went back and forth. I think, a rope fence would definitely be more cost-effective, but we just felt like, that it would be, the fence that was selected met the concept of the neighborhood, but at the same point added some structural, some strength, some rigidity to the fence rather than a rope. It doesn't get maintained, it gets deteriorated, it falls apart. So we threw around a lot of ideas, and both the design team and staff worked together to, land on the decision that we made. So.
Okay, I don't necessarily agree with it because I know we've been struggling trying to keep up with that, and for some reason or other, I look at the building, and I think it just doesn't quite fit Sebastian, the architectural style of it. And that's a concern I had in trying to figure out a way to soften it somewhat to bring it more in line with the concept that we've been trying to keep. And while there's no policy that's been absolutely, adopted, staff has been working, I understand it, with people coming in to try to bring that to their attention, and we've been successful in a couple of other projects. But I just look at the front elevation of the drawing, and it's more ultra-modern versus fishing village concept sort of a drawing. So I'm not very happy about that. I have one more question. There's a tree barricade detail shown on there, which is, I think it's some kind of a fence to prevent, it's on the landscape plan, to prevent removal of trees or something like that. Is that just a construction fence? Because I couldn't see a designation for it anywhere in the plan.
Yeah, so it's a temporary tree barricade. So what it is, it's a safety measure or an extra protective barrier so that the contractor doesn't damage any of the existing protected or specimen trees.
Okay.
So it will not be there permanently.
US 1's a federal highway. The curb cut is pretty big on there now. Looking at the drawing, I'll ask staff, has the US 1 federal highway approved the curb cut on here with the changes made? I know it's narrowing it down because it's pretty big and wide now.
We have the FDOT driveway permit and sidewalk, and the engineer has met. We have a copy of that, so they have signed off already on the design on the plan that's before you.
Okay, good, thank you. The extent of my questions for right now. Thank you.
I have no questions, only one comment. It's a huge improvement over what's there now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners have finished our questions. Now I will call anyone from the audience who wishes to speak in favor. You have to come up and give us your name.
Hi there, Beth Sembler. I own the property directly adjacent to the building. I own the property to the east. It is a residential property. I currently have my 77-year-old father-in-law living there. There's a second unit that is also used to house guests from time to time. We have invested a tremendous amount of time, effort, and thought into taking what was an old concrete block, dilapidated home and turning it into what is definitely, I think, what was intended to be in the riverfront district. It is and looks to be an old Florida home. We've done enough where it's considered new construction, but it looks as if it's been there forever. It certainly looks like it belongs in the riverfront district, and we take great pride in what we've created. And so I just wanted to say that we're very much in support of the riverfront district overlay requirements. I very much appreciate Mr. Roth speaking out about the building. Yes, it is beautiful, what's being proposed. I personally don't feel like it's really meeting as many of the requirements for the district that it could. This is a first-class corporation. They have a lot of money. I think they probably could do more to meet the requirements. They seem to be meeting the minimal requirements legally, but there's other things you can do to become a better member of the community you're moving into. I don't necessarily feel that they've done all they could, but that's my personal opinion. My concerns are several. I'm not against the development at all. We have coexisted very peacefully with Lois's office when she was running it. I believe in private property rights and certainly using property for the intended uses. My concerns are several. One is the nesting osprey, and again, just because we're meeting the legal requirements doesn't mean we're doing what's right. We've had a nesting osprey in that nest for several years. She comes every year. I think we need to try to do what's right to protect that. That's one of the main things people come to Sebastian for, is to see wildlife along the riverfront. And I think that we're being very short-sighted if we don't do everything we can, not just legally, but morally, to protect that. So I just wanted to go on record to voice my concerns. I'm very fond of the bird. I feel like she's part of us, and I feel like we should do what we can to make sure her nesting is not disruptive. And again, I understand legality, but then I also understand doing the right thing just because it's the right thing. My other concern is, again, the runoff. Yes, probably most of the time it's going to be great. But as you know, we get hit with big storms that roll in off the river, off the ocean. My concern is also, I just want to be on record, that I'm worried about the runoff. I am. I know they've got great stuff in place, and that's great 95% of the time. But we know, because we've been through them, the storms come in. So I am a little concerned about the runoff coming off the back slope of that property, because it does directly impact our property. And again, I'm not against the project. I'm just voicing my concerns and what I see as, what I need to worry about as the property owner directly adjacent behind them. The lighting is definitely an issue, and I have spoken with Dory. I am glad there's something in place, so if we feel that that backlight off that back door is an issue, I definitely want to be able to come to somebody and say, hey, y'all, this is not good. We want to be able to enjoy our property just like they're able to use their property, and I would like to have some mechanism in place to be able to voice that concern and have changes made if it is negatively impacting us. And then the only other issue would be sound. May I ask what the hours of operation are going to be?
If memory serves me correct, it's open, I think, around 9 to 10
In the evening?
In the morning.
Okay, very good.
And then it closes between 8 and 9, depending on the day. On Sundays, it would close earlier.
Okay.
But it's a normal shopping center environment.
And again, we are not against the project at all. We want to coexist with you and happily welcome you into town. But like I said, I definitely, as the property owner behind it, who has invested a lot of time and money into the property and plan to own the property for a long time. We have been here a long time. We plan to be here a long time. I'm not planning on flipping that property anytime soon. We take great pride and ownership in it. So I just want to let you all know that there are definite concerns on our end, but we are supportive.
Thank you. Have you had the opportunity to look at the
I have. I met with
landscaping
Dory.
plans?
I met with them, I went over everything, and that's why I knew what my concerns were.
Okay.
I also was wondering if there was any chance, and I don't know how much it would affect, but in increasing that berm that's inside your fence. I know you want to be good neighbors too.
Right, yes, ma'am. And so I'll let my engineer talk to technical side of it, but from a motional standpoint.
Yes, and I apologize, just it's a formal hearing, so if you could direct it, and then they will have a chance to answer your questions
Super.
and come up.
But those are my concerns. I don't know if anyone has.
That osprey nest, it is on existing tree right now, or it's on
What
hollow
happened
road?
was, it kept nesting on an FP&L line, and it was on one of the main lines, and it kept blowing the power. So FP&L came in and they put in a pole specifically for the osprey, and they put one of the big metal things on it.
Yeah, I know. I'm
Every
familiar with
single
that.
year she comes. She's there now with her.
So,
It's huge.
what is the plan for they removing that pole?
No, there's no plan to move the pole.
Okay.
Legally, from what I understand from Dory, that they are allowed to do what they need to do as long as she's not nesting. If she's not in the nest, they can do what they need to do. If she is nesting, Fish and Wildlife say you can't do anything that will disrupt her. It's not on their property. It's in, I believe, the right-of-way, but it is, I mean, it's right there.
Yeah, if they are suspended, anything they're moving there to the new pool, that's the law.
But what I'm saying is, I don't think there's any plan on that. What I think the plan is that they're going to try to work around her nesting season, and hopefully they get their stuff done, and by the time it's nesting season again, she comes back. But I just wanted to note that that's a real concern. And doing what's legally required is one thing, but doing what you might be able to do beyond that would be much appreciated.
Do you have any suggestions what they might do? I mean,
Probably, I don't know how you all, I can't talk to them. I don't know how they would feel about, there are existing cedar trees that are kind of around it, an existing buffer. I don't know if that would, I am not an environmentalist. I'm not an environmental engineer. I don't know if that would be the answer. I just want to be on record saying she exists, she's there every year. I know we want more of that in the Riverfront District. It's important. And I think we need to do whatever we can beyond what's just legal to help her along her way,
Okay,
within reason.
thank you.
Two questions.
Yes.
Which property do you own on the east
I
side?
own the property right behind the existing building down the slope. It's on the corner of North Central and Davis, so it's 1697 North Central.
It's a northern property.
Yes, sir. And it sits right on the corner. It's directly adjacent across from the RV place. It's a commercial building. They're great neighbors. Again, I'm not against the commercial development. I just would like to see it be done thoughtfully and with all the considerations taken for the neighborhood.
That's one of the biggest ospreys I've seen in
It
a
is.
long time.
So again, like I said, there's legal requirements, and then there's just trying to do the right thing. So just trying to make sure we do the right thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. I think we kind of drifted between in favor and opposition. We kind of covered it all at one, and since you are the audience.
I would not say I'm.
No, that's okay. I just want to stick to my checklist here. And so we'll go back to the applicant to provide the opportunity to respond. Yes, you may, as long as you identify yourselves.
Hi, I'm Robert Kirky, the owner and developer.
Wesley Mills, engineer of record.
So, first of all, I think that we've worked at great length with staff on the elevation. Having built 30 of these Verizon wireless stores, we definitely try to adapt into every community. I think from the original design that we sent Dory to the design that we ended up with, there were several, and I mean several, revisions back and forth. And Dory was not easy. And she demanded an awful lot in the building. So I will tell you that from experience. So in comparisons to other stores, this is a significant upgrade on the building elevation. And I do think, I know it's everybody's opinion, but I do think that the architect and Dory did embellish a great deal of fisherman type things with the awning system that they have on the side of the building. I don't think everything is always perfect, but I think we made a great effort to try to tie it in as best we can. If we had an 8,000 square foot building, you could do a lot more with your pitch and your roof line. With that small size of a building, it's really difficult to make it a retail building without, I think we went, again, at great lengths in trying to accommodate staff and to make that happen. I wanted just to point out a few things that I think Wesley will tie in as from a technical engineering perspective. As far as I'm concerned, all the runoff that's from the property is going westward. So the only drainage that's going to continue to go down the slope is what is already there today. And so we do disturb some of the exotic species, but we were putting material back in. So there's going to be, we believe, no additional runoff that will be caused by the Verizon Wireless building going eastward. And in addition to that, there is an extensive amount of landscaping planted, new plantings that's on the western side of that wall or the fence that she has by her property. Obviously, that's going to absorb a lot of water as well and deflect a lot of more rainwater away from her property. We definitely want to be good neighbors and try to work with the Osprey, do things like screening it around like a distance. And as Wesley will add to it, most of the removal and demo work on that slope will be further away from the Osprey nest. It won't be right underneath it, I think, at least based on the drawings. Okay. I'll let Wesley ask some technical.
Yeah, I think that touches on every aspect that I was going to talk about, just in a little bit more detail with the Osprey nest. For those of you all who aren't familiar, it's not on our site. It's in the right-of-way. It's at our northeast corner of our property. We would love to leave the area, untouched. And that was our initial proposal when we came in for a site plan. The city has a requirement in their land development ordinance that you must remove the exotics and invasives. So the only reason we would even be working in that area near the nest is specifically to remove the exotics. Since we have to remove the exotics to stabilize the base and to meet landscaping requirements, we're reestablishing the slope and replanting with hedge material, keeping some of the existing specimen protected trees. So I don't, like Bobby had mentioned, there is, it's not our intent to disturb the Osprey. Dory has shared, the history behind the Osprey, so we appreciate, everything that has gone on. So we don't want to disturb anything.
Can your work back there be done when she's not in her nest? In other words, she nests a certain time of the year. I'm not sure when that is, but could you hold off doing that portion of the work until she flies away out of her nest?
So I'm not, I'm a little bit handicapped because I'm not the environmentalist, so I don't know the patterns of an osprey. So I hate to tell you something that's not 100% correct. I know we'll do everything to work around it. And we will get with our environmentalists to see what we can do.
Our landscape designer is a certified arborist, and I think he's looked at it as well and provided some input to Dory.
Well, we have it in our staff report. We haven't noted it as a condition. You certainly can, but we certainly, when that land clearing permit comes in, we are going to require a plan to address the osprey. And I'm thinking timeline, I know it's March, but they still have to get your structural plans in, so there's going to be a review time for then, and it's probably going to be, I know they're going to hope before June, but it's going to be very close to the end of nesting season, probably when the project gets full swing and when there's actually some land clearing. But we'll get a plan, and we've got an environmental planner, and then our director of specialty is environmental also. And so we'll get some sort of plan from that contractor on how they're going to address that osprey before the land clearing occurs. And it may be that there may be a portion of the site that's not touched if it's close enough to June until the nesting season is done. we'll certainly look if there's a trade out of the tree materials that are more special for the osprey, that we can switch out those trees in that area or something, but we'll definitely work with them on that. If you'd like to make that a condition of approval, we had already noted it in our staff report, and we're going to be doing that anyways with that land clearing permit that
I would
comes
like
in.
to see it be a condition. I mean, we need to do everything we can to save that nest. So, yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can you give us a summary now, Dory?
I think most of your questions have been addressed. With the slope, I don't know if necessarily additional berm height, if that is something that we also can look at. It was suggested they've gone with the sod and the erosion matting, but the other site had used the grasses. And so maybe if that stabilization doesn't quite take, we have a rainy season in June, we feel that that's not the stabilization, there's still some water runoff. We certainly can, again, if you wanted to add it as a condition, that we would look at that runoff on that rear slope, and if we feel it needs some additional stabilization or some additional landscaping, grasses, we can certainly look at that as those incidents happens in rain events. I think, though, with the erosion matting and the sod, right now there is really no sod, or it's roots of those trees, and I don't think there's been a drainage problem yet with it.
It's very thick.
Yeah.
There's very thick pepper trees and
Yeah.
cabbage palm, very, very thick.
And another thing, just to make note of on the drainage side of things, right now, currently the building sheds off the building, and a portion of the high point goes down the hill and goes down the side. We have accounted for our entire building to be piped and underground, piped to the dry swales that bubble up into US 1. So literally the only water that will be leaving, will be going down that hill is the hill. So we did.
But we do receive a lot of rain in the rainy season, and my concern remains the impact on the adjoining property. Maybe additional landscaping, but I'm just concerned with that steep slope and the runoff.
We understand your concern, and as it gets constructed, we can take a look and see if there's other provisions. My concern is the higher we try to berm something on the adjacent property side, the steeper we make that slope. So we have established vegetation to slow down. Right now, the slope is less than 4 to 1, which is desirable. My concern is as we come up into the property more, we make this slope steeper and we exceed a 4 to 1, which is more than a typical standard that's allowed in the state of Florida mostly, but really in this area.
Besides the farm, there could be other methods, means to look at that. Besides just saying we can work on the slope, there are other ways to look at that. How can we build swales, et cetera, additional vegetation? Like I said, my concern would be the adjoining property and the impact it's going to have on it. If it meets all the standards, we have to look at it.
Yeah, and by no means is our intent to build something, drainage goes on the neighbor and for us to walk away. We don't want that either. So if it's not functioning, we will do whatever we have to do to make sure that we don't throw water onto the neighbor, because you're not allowed to do that. And we know that.
You could increase the berm a little bit, and you could widen the swale. Instead of having just a V swale, make it a little flat area, widen the swale so it retain more water. You could still keep the same slope if you want.
And we do
Plus,
plan
you're
to
going to have
field.
erosion mats there that will help, yeah.
I don't have handy, but maybe Dory or Wesley can
See,
answer
right
this.
now it's a V.
Yes.
It's a 1 foot.
Yeah.
It's not going to hold all the water.
Yeah, it needs to be more of a swale like you had mentioned. But
Yeah,
the
maybe not
amount of-
necessarily a higher berm, but the swale in front of the berm?
Sure. What I was going to mention is the number of tree counts for right in that berm area with the fence. I believe it's pretty extensive.
Yeah.
Brand new plantings of
It's
trees.
good, it's good,
Which,
yeah.
I think we need to take into account the staff's recommendation to heavily tree that whole area, so the root system will be reestablished with brand new vegetation. Dory, you have the number of trees on that side of the fence? That's new plantings? It's pretty significant.
So it looks like it's approximately 500 hedge shrub plants, approximately 40 to 50 understory trees, and approximately 20 or so canopy trees. It's a small taxon.
So you're putting those west of your swale, right? West side of swale?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that will help, so.
There's 49 canopy trees.
Yeah, I think he was talking about the entire site, but
No, I'm just talking about
The back
Talk about that one edge.
this east property line.
I just need to say that I've had a good deal of experience with planting things, and there are enough plants here that, trust me, if 10% of them die, you're still going to be out there clearing them away in a short time, particularly since you've taken the time to put in an excellent watering system when we're in the dry season. I really think you're going to be real pleased with the end result of this. And I've also had a lot of experience with planting on the side of a hill that was 57 steps down, and I think you've got it nailed.
Thank
I'll
you.
be real surprised if there's a problem there.
Thank you.
Do we have any deliberations that need to go on between our commissioners here?
Does anyone else have any concern about the front architectural of the building? I guess the thing that strikes me the most is the big black gray area with the name Verizon on it, which the rest of the building doesn't really fit either, but am I the only one?
I have no problems with it.
Well, no. I still have the concern of having more of a nautical theme on the front elevation.
And I know you had mentioned hardscape, Mr. Carter, so I think even though I know we have tried to get the rope fences before, I think the length of this fence and where it's going to be, I think more of what we had come up with, more of a tri-rail type of fence is going to be okay. But if there can possibly be some hardscaping that would be added in the front of the building in their landscape areas, and it doesn't necessarily, or even just a change out of the lighting on the front and doing sconce lamps or something instead can maybe add what you're maybe looking for, Mr. I think at this point, though, unless there's a complete agreement that you're not happy with the elevations, it maybe can be more of the stuff that we add that can get what you're looking for, the intent of the overlay district.
Well, I'm not unhappy with the actual elevation of the property. I'd just like to see a little additional, for example, something as simple as what was done at Tower Kingdom, with just, along their front entranceway on the sidewalk, having the nautical rope fence with the
Or it doesn't necessarily have to be the
pilot.
rope and the piles, but placements of rocks or, and this may be more, I'm just throwing this out thinking anchor related or that. It doesn't necessarily have to be that fishing part. I don't know if that's something that you want us to look into, or there's not a lot of landscaping areas in the front there. They did add some foundation landscaping that's going to fit their plants. I'm not sure what else that we can add to this.
That's why I ask about the east property line of the parking area. If a double rope fence along there could work to help give it more of a nautical theme, i.e. fishing village. Because the way it is now, it just doesn't exude any of that. I'd be in favor of having something done along the sides or even in the front, as Mr. Carter suggested, that something as simple as the rope fencing. And I know we need to monitor it because I've called code enforcement about, and I don't know what they can do about it, Terra Kingdom with the rope, and it's worn out, and they've not replaced it. It looks kind of shabby. I don't know what's happened with it. I haven't called them in the last 6 months, so I guess it's low priority, but it just doesn't look good.
we can get on that. We had a sheet in their site plan, but,
Maybe if you call them, something will happen, Dory.
I know there's some rope fencing over at Hyaliska also.
Yeah.
But we need to be careful that we just don't throw that onto a site if it doesn't really match the elevations of the building.
Exactly.
There is some different ideas that we can use that's hardscaping that will still bring that in. So I'm not sure if just to put the rope fence or the roping on there is going to.
What do you recommend? Or are you saying it's fine the way it is?
Well, there was a meeting with city manager, and it was the interpretation of the code. They felt that this met the code with regards to our section in the riverfront overlay. I think there can be some hardscaping. I don't mean to be put on the spot to think of what we can offhand. I'm thinking, anchors
Well,
or
there should
something.
be some
instead of
thought
not
to along those
Yes, I think that
lines.
we
How
should
about
maybe leave it
that?
up to their architect if you wanted to add that as a condition of
And that-
supplying some hardscaping. And we certainly can, I don't think the hardscaping would be it's going to be something last to the site that they add. If you want us to bring the proposal back to you, it's not going to hold up us issuing permits or anything like that. Let's get the project going, but that will be your determination on
Only other comment I'd make, I did, not to disagree with you, Mr. Roth, but putting that type fencing along the back portion where there's like the split rail, well, I wouldn't be in favor of that. I think you need something more structurally sound than that.
Structurally sound than what? The split rail or the rope fence?
No, the split rail versus having the rope back there.
Well, that's what ended up going on the back of Tire Kingdom because there was a little bit of a ledge there. There or maybe one other structure along there.
But behind the Dollar Tree in the new dialysis center, they had a slope too.
That's what I'm thinking about that.
They had a different type of landscaping. It was a more natural. They have a lot of the grasses and things.
Yeah.
So the split rail does kind of fit in. It goes into an area that is still heavily treed.
Anyone else?
I have one question, and perhaps it's already been answered. Is there anything about this project that doesn't meet the existing code?
It meets the intent of the riverfront, and it definitely comp plan and land development code. It meets all of our land development code requirements for site development.
Okay, if we've addressed everybody's opinions, I would like to have a motion, please.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the site plan review, the approval of the site redevelopment plan consisting of demolition of an existing office building and construction of a new 2,400 square foot retail building, along with the required parking, landscaping, and site amenities at 1676 US Highway 1.
I'll second that.
I would like to make a condition on that consideration be given to the Osprey and future plans and also in drainage.
Second, agree with that?
I'll second.
Okay.
And I need to be clarified there when you say and I understand with the Osprey that's additional consideration, but when you say the drainage, it's kind of broad for a condition.
Well, you made a comment a while ago that, and when it gets further along in planning, that can be addressed again. So
If there are any problems, that we can look, readjust the drainage from the rear. Okay.
Let us have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hugan?
Yes.
Mr. Kizilbosh?
Yes.
Ms. Cottenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Roth?
No.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Alvarez?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Okay, that is 6 ayes, 1 nay. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good luck with your business and the development.
Okay, Commissioners' matters. And we'll start now.
I have none this evening, thank you.
Nothing.
there were a number of questions that remained unanswered on their application. Those are numbers 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, and 9. Did the developer come back with the response to those areas that were left blank?
This is on their application form, or I'm not sure, I don't have it in front of me, Mr. Motti.
By the spirit of Sebastian. There were certain areas that were left blank that they said they were going to get back with answers to.
Regarding the preliminary plat and the construction drawings?
The plat.
Okay.
The application. And that was what the council said. The city council is accepting what the developers have presented as their response in the form that they completed it, but the council accepted the developer's response regardless if the form questions were not answered, specifically items 9, 2, 3, 5, 7, and 8.
I'll be honest, I don't know what those specific ones are. I do know that went, if I remember from the conceptual plan and the discussions, because there was some questions, I think, from people that were present at the meeting regarding size of the homes that could be on it, the roads, more traffic relation. There was definitely some environmental questions that we did say we're going to get that information when we have the preliminary plat application come in. So we did get a full preliminary plat application. We've gotten some environmental reports. It's a big subdivision, and they're doing pod 1 and 2 is what the preliminary plat came in. We still have not finalized under review for the traffic impact analysis. The entrance onto Old Dixie is being looked at right now. That's kind of where they're, and some improvements to Old Dixie. But we've gotten that information and being reviewed. It's not close to coming before you yet. It's moving along, but we haven't finished our review. But the things that we had said that we're going to need at the preliminary plat, it has been submitted, and we won't bring it to you until we know that we have all of those questions answered. Specifically, those numbers that you're talking about, I do not offhand know exactly what items those are.
All right.
But the items that we needed for a complete preliminary plat package has been submitted with their application. The plans, the numbers, the environmental reports, traffic analysis that we didn't need it's a good 1.5 inches, the traffic impact analysis. That did not come in, and we did not need that per code for the conceptual plan. But that all has been submitted, and it's being reviewed.
All right, because I still receive a lot of questions on that, being in that neighborhood. So that's why I bring it to your attention.
It'll come part of the minutes, as Jan will have those specific numbers, and I'll see if I can look up from that city council minutes those specific items. But yes, it'll be a complete plat before it's brought before you.
If you could get me those, I can put some of the neighbors' minds to rest that, yes, they have fulfilled their obligations.
Okay, I can't give you that info. I can't actually, I mean, they're public record, but to present them for you to hand out, though, because this is going through the process, we haven't had that hearing yet.
Okay.
They're welcome to come in. You're welcome to come in to see what we have, but to be able to disperse that yet, they may be changed. They're not the official approved plans via resolution to actually just start dispersing those. The application and what they've submitted is all public record, and certainly if you come into the office, we can go over them with anybody that has questions. But to be able to hand these out and say this is the approved plans yet, we have not had those public hearings yet.
Still in the planning process.
Yes.
Thank you.
Questions?
I have no questions. No matter?
What is the progress of the railroad building on Cleveland? Anything happening with that?
I'm sorry, on the what building? The train station?
Railroad depot?
As I understand, their permits have been issued already. They're in the process of getting the train station itself ready for retail. It's a commercial use, and before they can get a CO for that, the whole site plan is involved. So at that point, you'll see the parking and the landscaping. I believe they had to do a little small swale also on their property. So the complete site will have to be in place before they get CO of that building to be able to use it for public use, for commercial use.
Just kind of an editorial statement. And it kind of upset me because we've talked years ago about developing this guideline for a fishing village concept, kind of a policy, and the commission was all in favor of it, and we've asked about it, and we hear that it's, in progress. We've never heard that, no, it's dead, we're not going to do it. And that's kind of what upsets me, is that we as commissioners look at things and ask for things to be started, ideas. Another one's the email situation. And it just kind of goes into a black hole somewhere and nothing happens. I'm sorry, I'm shooting off because I looked at this project tonight for Verizon and I was disappointed that they got this far and it didn't look better than it did as far as complying what I thought we meant. And I got out the file that I had from Palm City, Palm Bay, that we were going to look at and try to pattern it after. I know there's been changes in staff and directors, and everyone's got their own ideas, but we just don't hear things coming to fruition.
So it was, I know this was asked at last time, but because there was an official email this week, we were very, very disappointed in our CRA master plan on what was presented to staff. They went through 3 revisions, and we actually, to make sure that it wasn't just staff that wasn't happy with it, we sent it out to the Florida Planning Agency. It had some other peer review. I couldn't say it at the last couple of meetings, but yes, the consultants have been in essence let go. And what we're hoping to get from them, staff is going to finish, Lisa's going to try and finish up that report. So we were not happy with the master plan, and we certainly don't want to bring something for you that we're not happy with, to, again, just rush it through the process or to get a document that we might not want to use. But yes, the master CRA, and so much of our other plans are going to come, things that we had talked about are going to come from this plan. So we share your disappointment that it has taken this long to, we kept giving them the benefit of the doubt of the next draft would be better, the next draft would be better. And because some of our other planning in the riverfront all ties to that master plan. And so we've been kind of our hands tied too, because we don't have this master plan in place. Based on the contract and the agreement that we had with them, we certainly wanted this before you and City Council already. But we didn't want to just get a plan that we didn't think had anything. There was just, ideas that we would let them know. Small lots along Indian River Drive, kind of a master plan maybe for where the Public Works compound was. We had hoped to get some sort of plan for that. Where the hotel is that the city had bought, Harbor Lights, nothing was in there. And we really felt that it was not unique to Sebastian, what they were bringing into it, but more a South Florida flavor to it. And that's not what we wanted in our master plan. And so this week they were let go. So, hoping to get our documents from them that we can use to finish that up, and staff will finish up what we can.
Does it have to be final before anything can be shared with us to take a look at?
No, the documents themselves, again, we don't want to forward the drafts, but you're welcome to come in to see what, what we have.
Okay.
And with public records, you want to come in, and we can certainly, we'd prefer that than forwarding you the drafts that have not been approved. The Verizon building, it's an interpretation of code, of what's in that riverfront. And yes, Mr. Roth, you're correct, there's different staff, so there are different interpretations
right.
for that building.
I want you to understand, Dory, my comments are not directed to you as a person or as a staff member. It's frustration because it doesn't seem like we're being provided information from the very top. We're sitting here volunteering, going out and spending hours looking at these sites and walking around and, checking them out. But when we come up with ideas, we're just not kept up to date, which is kind of frustrating. So I'm not directing anything at you because you're the only one sitting here. And you have to sit and listen to me, I'm sorry. I apologize. And I hope that's on record.
Mr. Alvarez.
Yes, I have a couple of things. Number one, got my microphone on. First of all, 512, I noticed that they're closing up that hole there finally, that project there that...
oh, yes.
Yeah, and they have it for sale too now.
Pardon me?
They have it for sale.
It's always been for sale, and that was the point of the...
Oh, I thought they just erected that sign. Oh, okay. Okay.
But yes, they're finishing, as I understand, they had to switch contractors that was doing it, so they have been doing the dewatering. It does look like water's been going back and forth, and they're starting to fill in that pond.
That's good,
He's
yes,
still on a
because
deadline it's supposed to be by April. I mean, there is some activity on the site now.
Yes, I
But
saw
there's a
that.
final plat that should be submitted. He's got on a timeline for that, and hopefully that'll be coming in shortly.
Okay, yeah, because it doesn't have any fence or anything. It's kind of dangerous, you know, being like that for a long time. But anyhow, as long as it's moving right along. The signage, remember you had some lady that in the department that were going to call me about signs, erect signs for, nothing has happened. Nobody's called me. Last time she had gotten married. She was on vacation or something, honeymoon.
I apologize, Mr. Alvarez.
Yes, remember we had spoken about signs in the city. When I was in the Natural Resources Board, you don't know how many times I asked.
The tortoise
Yeah,
signs.
the tortoises or
Sorry.
just, you know, yeah, the kind of animal signage that we had before the hurricanes years ago. And that's what really attracted me. It's like, oh my God, we got a whole bunch of, and all of a sudden after the hurricanes, you don't know how many times I have in this diocese asked for that. Anyhow.
It has slipped my list, but I will get with
And number 3.
Kim Hagler, yes.
Here we go again.
The only one
I'm sorry. No, because these are things, again, and I'm going to reiterate what you said. It goes into the abyss. No, but, you know, it's like, you know, I don't know. The things about the vehicles again. Have you had any updates?
I checked with code enforcement, and those sites are in compliance. I know because they're close to each other, it may seem like that whole area, but the cars are licensed and insured to those owners. As he knew that there was, the state requires that if you sell more than 5 cars, you do have to get a dealer's license. But because of our home occupational code, they could not even sell, they can't do it as a business type of thing, even if it is less than 5. So we felt that the code itself, it was, addressed it. They were in compliance. The one car had been sitting there for 4 months, so it wasn't necessarily that he was changing cars over.
You know, we keep on coming back with the car's been sitting there for 4 months. That guy's been selling cars for over 3 years or 4 years, not just this year. And he's been selling more than one vehicle, okay?
But you can go on other roads and find other people for sale with cars.
Here we go again. So it's going to be okay for him to, to sell cars. Well, let me tell you, it is against the law. There's codes here, the state Florida codes. There is against the law for that gentleman to sell vehicles there. It is against the law. He's conducting business in a residential area, period. So I don't know how many times I'm going to get red, blue, yellow, and, he's just, I don't know what's going on
Alvarez,
here.
I brought it to code enforcement. I don't know how else to, they can't.
Mr. Marty, can you please go ahead and paraphrase what you...
I looked it up on the car sales. And this gentleman, in order to buy cars from an auction, he has to have a license. That's prima facie evidence that he's running a business. He's got a license to purchase cars. Now he's selling them from his property. And what it goes on to say, displaying 3 motor vehicles or more for sale or lease over the course of 12 months is a business.
3 at the same time? Because that's what we've never had evidence of 3 cars at the same time.
Displaying 3 or more motor vehicles or more for sale or lease over the course. But they don't have to be there at once. He's selling more than 3 cars over the course of 3 periods. That's a business.
I don't know who's not calling it into code enforcement then, though, because we're just getting the calls on the ones that you had. If somebody wants to call in when those cars are for sale to keep a record of those, we don't have records of the other cars that he's been selling or pictures. And so based on what you had sent us, Mr. Alvarez, and that they were in compliance for that. Now, if they've been selling 3 cars a year and we have somebody sends us pictures. Nobody has sent us a copy of the gentleman's state license, his auction license, so we don't have that. I don't know how to get that to code enforcement.
Well, all it takes is a little simple investigation, get his name submitted to the requirements to get a license, and you'll get his name.
Okay.
And his license number.
And I've got to, and I understand the frustration, But I'm not, we're not code enforcement board here, though, and if you have code enforcement complaints, those, you do need to go through the code enforcement department. If you're requesting us to change a code or something like that, that's a different thing. If you feel that our home occupational license or something that's not in the code for this, that's what this board can address. And I don't mean to be short on that, but the code enforcement complaints through the board, a previous attorney had stated you need to be careful on the complaints that you're making to me and at these public meetings, because this may come back to you, and you may have to step down then when the actual code change or something was to come before you. But if you go through the code enforcement department and make those complaints, and we get records of this, then we can change that code accordingly if we're finding that there's a problem with any of our codes.
Here you have, and I'm just looking for interpretation now. If you have a home occupation, you're only allowed to get deliveries once a week or whatever it is. I don't know how many times a week you're allowed to get stuff delivered to your house. It's not allowed to be kept out in the front, your packages or whatever you're having delivered. Now, you're purchasing these cars, but you're leaving them out in front.
I understand, but I don't have any proof of these residents that are doing that. Certainly I believe that you'd have the homeowner. It doesn't matter if you have a home occupation or not. If I have a car that I don't need anymore and I put in my driveway, we're certainly not going to change the code that you can't put a boat for sale in your front yard or something like that.
That's totally different.
Yes, that's what, it's if we have, and the code will address though, because the home occupational says you can't have customers come to your home. So if you're doing this as a business and customers are coming to your home, but I don't have proof on the addresses that you had given us. You'd just given us those one pictures, and those cars are licensed and insured and they're for sale, and those are the only ones. None of the houses had more than one car there at the time of the pictures. If we have back proof or you have other cars that are there.
Can I put my oar in the water? It's like, I feel like this is an excellent discussion, but we should not be having this discussion.
Okay.
If you have a complaint, you have to call code enforcement, but don't just call them, do it online. It gets recorded, and the next day, if it's another car, do it again. And if there is no action taken, then take your little body down to the police department that handles code enforcement and sit in the lobby until they address you. And it will get taken care of, but Dory can't do it, and we can't do it.
Well, I understand that.
But we are in danger of...
And that's why we're ending it.
We are in danger of making ourselves in a position where if there is a need to change the code, we would not be even allowed to do it because we've already discussed it. We can't do this.
Understood.
I'm sorry, I don't get upset about hardly anything.
Okay,
Any other issues?
that's it? Bill?
Anything from you? Okay. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all.